The desert holds its secrets well. Beneath the blood-red cliffs of Petra, there is silence. But not the silence of emptiness. This is the silence of something hidden. Something waiting. Most visitors see Petra as a marvel of ancient engineering. Temples carved into rock, tombs bathed in the glow of sunset. But tonight, I will show you a Petra that is not in the guidebooks. A Petra where the walls whisper, where symbols carved in stone hint at a gospel too dangerous to survive in Rome, and too sacred to die in silence. Asterisk, asterisk, it begins with a cross. Not the weathered scratch of a tourist. Not a Nabatean design, but a perfect Templar cross, cut deliberately into the wall of a tomb where no Crusader army ever set foot. Imagine standing there, your torchlight shaking, the flame catching on the sharp edges of a symbol that should never be here. Who carved it? Why was it hidden? And more disturbing, what message were they trying to preserve in this desert labyrinth of stone? History says the Templars began in Jerusalem in 1119, noble knights sworn to protect pilgrims. But what the history books leave out is the 10 years of silence before the church recognized them. 10 years unaccounted for. 10 years where they dug beneath temples, tunneled like foxes, and perhaps traveled far beyond what anyone dared to imagine. Some whispers placed them here, in Petra, searching, hiding, protecting. And then, there are the carvings. Latin words scratched into sandstone, phrases like Adlamavi and Tenebris. I cried out in the darkness, symbols painted over, then plastered, then burned with ash. Someone wanted them gone. Someone wanted silence. But silence, my friends, has a way of speaking. We'll see patterns etched high above eye level, as if meant only for the initiated to find. We'll see frescoes layered 3 times, each burial of paint another attempt to erase what should not exist. And in these fragments, crosses, stars, roses, emerges a story not of Rome, not of Peter, but of a woman, a teacher, a bride, one the Templars may have guarded with their very lives. But this story is not told with ink. It is carved in stone. Hidden beneath Petra's treasury are voids too perfect to be natural, chambers aligned with the solstice like a cathedral beneath the desert. Radar scans confirmed them. Archaeologists whispered about them. And then, the funding vanished. The permits disappeared. Officially, nothing was there. Convenient, isn't it? What if Petra is more than a ruin? What if it is a vault of memory, where the gospel Rome could not allow was buried beneath layers of stone, layers of silence, and centuries of fear? And what if the Knights Templar weren't just warriors, but guardians of that forbidden memory? This is not just history. It is a shadow war between memory and erasure, between truth and silence. And tonight, we begin to unearth it together. So before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because what we uncover here will take us beyond Petra, beyond the Templars, and into secrets that could rewrite the story of faith itself. Stay with me. The desert is waiting to speak. If you dare to listen. To reach Petra, you must walk through silence. A narrow canyon called the Sick Winds for more than a kilometer, its walls towering high above you, red and gold, as if the desert itself is closing in. Every step echoes. Every shadow feels alive. And then, suddenly, the walls part, and before you rises a facade carved straight from the mountain. Columns, pediments, windows, but not built, born, chiseled into the flesh of stone. This is Petra, the Rose City, a place the ancients called the gift of the desert. To the Nabateans, it was their jewel, a city of trade and worship, carved from sandstone more than 2,000 years ago. But to travelers who stumble upon it at sunset, when the cliffs glow the color of dried blood, it feels less like a city and more like a scar, a wound in the earth that never healed. For centuries, Petra was lost to the outside world. The Crusaders never built their castles here. pilgrims never marked it on their maps. To Europeans, it simply vanished, swallowed by desert wind and rumor. But sometimes, what disappears is not forgotten by accident, but erased on purpose. Petra wasn't just abandoned. Some believe it was made invisible. A city deliberately hidden, like a secret too dangerous to share. Asterisk, asterisk. Even local Bedouin told legends of shadows moving through the tombs at night. Men dressed in white. Not Muslim, not Romang, always silent. They said Petra was cursed, a city where treasures slept beneath the stone, guarded by spirits who punished anyone daring to wake them. Stand in front of Petra's treasury at dusk, and you will feel it. The sandstone doesn't just glow, it bleeds. The Nabateans built monuments for gods and kings. But the color of this stone, iron-rich and crimson, makes the entire city look as though it's carved from congealed blood. And maybe that is the true curse of Petra, beauty that hides death. Tombs disguised as temples. Silence disguising whispers. Crosses that never should have been here, waiting like scars etched into flesh. If walked through these canyons at night, when the stars vanish behind cliffs, and the darkness presses close. The silence is not peaceful, it is heavy, suffocating, as if the stone itself remembers something it cannot say. And yet, if you listen long enough, you might hear it. The faint scratching of chisels. The echo of Latin prayers no priest dares repeat. The ghosts of men who came here not to conquer, but to bury a truth that could not survive anywhere else. Petra was never meant to be rediscovered. But centuries later we did. And along with its facades and tombs, we began to uncover something far more troubling. Symbols that should not exist, words carved in the wrong tongue, and evidence of a gospel too dangerous to be canonized. In the next part of our journey, we'll follow those symbols deep into Petra's shadows and confront the carvings that whisper of a forbidden faith. Stay close, because once you see what's written in stone, you cannot unsee it. When you wander beyond Petra's monuments, past the treasury and the royal tombs, the tourists disappear. What remains are walls of raw sandstone, silent caverns, and shadows that seem to move when you're not looking. But look closer, and the silence begins to crack. Because carved into this stone are messages, symbols, fragments of a gospel that should not exist here. Asterisk, asterisk, high above eye level, scratched faintly into the wall of the snake tomb, lies a Latin phrase, adlamavi in tenebris. I cried out in the darkness. It is not Nabatean, not Ramon, and certainly not the work of pilgrims. Whoever carved it wanted it hidden, so high, so faint, almost invisible in daylight. And yet, it waits. A cry from centuries past, echoing in a city where no Latin prayers were ever meant to be spoken. Asterisk, asterisk, adamavi in tenebris. To you, I cried out. In the darkness. Asterisk, asterisk. Deeper in Petra, scratched beside another inscription, is a strange symbol, a triangle pierced by a vertical sword. Archaeologists dismiss it as random graffiti. But in the Vatican's archives, in a Templar manuscript, the exact same shape appears. There, it is labeled Sigillum Silenti, the seal of silence, a symbol of oaths never to be broken, a vow that truth would remain hidden, even under threat of death. So what was so dangerous that knights, trained for war, would choose silence over revelation? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Elsewhere, in the Cave of Three Pillars, a crude cross appears, two bars intersecting, the lower tilted like a broken step. To most, it looks like a mistake, the careless scratch of a child. But to those who know Templar symbology, it is familiar, a distorted version of the Cross of Lorraine, used in secret by splinter groups. Altered just enough to signal recognition without drawing attention. It's as if the carver wanted others to see it, but only those who already knew what to look for. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Even more unsettling are the frescoes. In one chamber, archaeologists discovered an image layered 3 times. First, a woman, robed, crowned, holding a scroll. Painted over, she vanished beneath Islamic patterns. Then a 3rd time with ash. Not once, but 3 times erased. Someone wanted her forgotten. But every attempt to bury her image only confirmed how dangerous she must have been. Who was she? A saint? A heretic? Or the bride of truth the Templars whispered of in their secret texts? Asterisk, asterisk. The more you walk, the more the stone seems alive with memory. Latin crosses etched half-finished, as if the carver was interrupted. Geometric patterns that mirrored Templar chapels in France, but warped. Like a memory fading in exile. It feels as though the walls are speaking, not in words, but in fragments. Broken sentences. Symbols meant to be pieced together only by those willing to listen. And as I traced those carvings with my fingers, I felt it, the faint hum of fear. Whoever carved these was not proud. They were terrified. They were carving against time, against empire, against silence itself. What do these carvings mean? Why do they echo symbols found in Templar manuscripts thousands of miles away? And why did someone work so hard to erase them, plastering them, burning them, covering them with silence? In the next chapter of our journey, we'll leave the surface of Petra behind. Because the true secrets are not carved on the walls you can see. They are buried beneath your feet, in the hidden chambers, sealed vaults, and hollow places where even light dares not enter. Stay with me. Because Petra is about to open its mouth, and what waits below may change everything you thought you knew. Most people know the Templars as warriors in white cloaks, their red crosses blazing under the sun of Jerusalem. But that is only the convenient version of history. The real story begins in silence, 10 years of it. 10 years before the church ever recognized them. 10 years before kings feared them. 10 years where their purpose was hidden in shadow. Asterisk, asterisk, from 1119 to 1129, the Templars were nameless. No papal blessing. No public mission. No records of guarding pilgrims or fighting battles. Just whispers of men who lived beneath the Temple Mount. Digging. Arab historians wrote of Franks burrowing like foxes. European pilgrims described strange figures, carrying torches underground, moving in silence, never singing hymns, never holding vigil. Think about that. Nights sworn to God, yet no prayers, no chants, no songs. Only digging. Always digging. What were they searching for? Asterisk, asterisk. What treasure lay beneath the stones of Solomon's temple, so vital that these knights spent a decade in the dark, carving tunnels, risking collapse, ignoring the world above? The silence deepens when you read a single Vatican document from the early 1130s. In it, a French abbot mentions knowledge entrusted to the brethren from the lands of Edom. Edom, the ancient name for Petra. If true, this means the Templars were not only tunneling beneath Jerusalem, they may have traveled further east, into the desert, into Petra, not to conquer, not to build castles, but to hide or retrieve something never meant to see the light of day. Asterisk, asterisk. And if that is true, then Petra's strange carvings, its erased frescoes, its sealed chambers, they are not coincidences. They are fingerprints, left behind by men who were not just knights, but custodians of forbidden knowledge. Asterisk, asterisk. Why call them warriors when they spent their first decade underground? Why call them defenders of pilgrims when pilgrims themselves wrote of their absence? Maybe their real mission was never about swords. Maybe it was about memory, about carving into stone what ink could not preserve. The Templars were miners, not of gold, not of silver, but of secrets. Secrets buried so deep that even centuries of silence could not erase them. They dug through earth, but they also dug through history, through theology, through the bones of forgotten gospels. And what they found? I believe, was something so dangerous that silence became their only shield. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Not every Templar agreed. There are hints of a black brotherhood, knights who broke from the order, choosing exile over obedience, carrying the knowledge into deserts where Rome's reach grew thin. Imagine it, armored men shedding their swords, trading them for robes of contemplation. Men who had sworn vows of battle, now whispering of visions, of a gospel written not in books but in stone. They became something else. Something the church could not name. Something Petra still remembers. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. So if the Templars were not soldiers in those first years, but seekers, what exactly did they find? In the next part of our journey, we descend into Petra's hidden underworld. Vaults sealed with ash, chambers aligned with the stars, and empty spaces that should not exist, because the true gospel of Petra may not be carved on its walls, but buried beneath its feet. Petra reveals its secrets slowly. On the surface, its facades are breathtaking. Temples, tombs, palaces carved into crimson cliffs. But beneath the surface, that's where the silence grows heavy. Because Petra is not just a city of stone. It is a city of hollow places, sealed doors, and chambers that even archaeologists are afraid to name. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. In the late 1990s, a team of researchers brought ground-penetrating radar to Petra. They wanted to map the soil beneath the great treasury, Al-Khazna. What they found shocked even the skeptics. Not natural caves, not random voids, but perfect rectangles, chambers too symmetrical to be accidents, aligned precisely with the solstice axis, as if the treasury itself was only the facade, a mask for something hidden beneath. A vault, a sanctuary, or perhaps a tomb. Asterisk, asterisk. Officially, nothing was published. The data was sealed. Funding vanished. And the official explanation? No archaeological significance, convenient words. But silence, once again, speaks louder than denial. Asterisk, asterisk. A local explorer once claimed he found a narrow crevice behind a tomb. Crawling inside, he descended rough-hewn steps, damp and ancient, into a chamber. On the roof, strange carvings, half crosses, half stars, warnings or prayers. But within a week, a flash flood struck. The entrance collapsed. Forever sealed. He left only a sketch, an inverted seal of Solomon with a rose at its heart. A symbol seen once before. In a single Templar manuscript in Rome. Coincidence? Or evidence that someone had been here long before him? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Walk Petra's canyons, and you'll notice something odd. Facades that lead to nothing. Doorways that open only onto bare rock. To tourists, they're decorative. To archaeologists, they're puzzles. But what if they were neither? What if those doorways were markers? Silent signs for the initiated, pointing to sealed entrances hidden behind layers of stone. Locals call one site Babsir, the Gate of Secrets. Legends say it leads downward into Petra's underbelly, where treasure and truth were buried. The church never investigated. The empire never touched it. And perhaps that was the point. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Many of the carvings underground are not eroded, but deliberately destroyed. Incomplete inscriptions. Symbols scratched away mid-stroke, as if someone began a message and was stopped. Other places are buried under ash, plastered over, painted with new motifs. Imagine it, centuries of effort not to preserve history, but to erase it, to seal it beneath rock and silence. Why erase so carefully? Unless what was hidden had the power to unmake the story told above ground. So beneath Petra's glowing facades lie vaults, collapsed stairways, and chambers aligned with the stars. But what did the Templars guard here? What gospel was so dangerous that it could not be written in ink, but had to be carved in stone and hidden in the dark? In the next part of our journey, we will face the most unsettling possibility that this gospel was not about Rome or Peter, but about her. A woman whose memory the church tried to erase and whose shadow Petra still protects. Asterisk asterisk, among Petra's carvings, one figure appears again and again, though always in fragments. A woman, sometimes crowned, sometimes robed, sometimes seated with a scroll in her hand. Not Mary the Mother, not a saint recognized by Rome, but someone else. Someone the Templars, in their secret texts, called the Bride of Truth. Asterisk asterisk. In one chamber, beneath layers of plaster and ash, archaeologists uncovered the outline of a female figure. Not stylized as a passive virgin, but as a teacher. Before her knelt not a child, but grown men, their heads bowed. In another carving, she holds a scroll, 12 small flames burning before her, as if she were illuminating those around her. And again, carved into 3 separate Petra walls, the phrase repeats, Magistra Veritatis, the mistress of truth. But the church has no mistress of truth. So who was she? Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the canonical Gospels, Magdalene is a follower, a witness. But in the texts the church rejected, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Thomas, she is something far more dangerous, a teacher, even a rival to Peter. In one account, she argues theology with the apostles and wins. In another, she carries secret knowledge that Christ entrusted only to her. If this is the gospel carved into Petra's walls, then it changes everything. Authority would not flow through Rome, not through Peter, but through her. Asterisk 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 asterisk. What makes this theory even darker is how the message was preserved. Not on parchment, which can burn. Not in ink, which can fade. But in stone, symbols, geometry, frescoes layered and erased, yet never fully gone. It was not meant for the masses. It was meant for the initiated, those who could read the silence, trace the carvings, understand the code. A gospel that survived not by being spoken, but by being hidden. Asterisk 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 asterisk. If the Bride of Truth was Magdalene, why cover her 3 times? Why burn her image in ash? Because her presence threatened to rewrite the story from its foundations. A woman at the center of revelation. A teacher of men. A figure whose memory could unmake centuries of hierarchy. To erase her was to protect the canon. To hide her was to preserve control. But the more they erased, the more Petra whispered her name. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The Templars may have carried fragments of this gospel. Their motto spoke of light from darkness, illumination without altar, fire from within, and their earliest seals, some confiscated in France, were accused of heresy, not for worshiping idols, but for honoring a feminine presence. The church refused to name. In Petra, we see the same pattern, crosses warped just slightly, inscriptions unfinished, symbols of roses and stars linked with Magdalene. The Templars may not have been heretics at all. They may have been guardians. So what if Petra is not just a lost Nabatean city, but a gospel in stone? A gospel where Magdalene is not silent, but central. A gospel Rome could not canonize, so it buried her beneath layers of silence. In the next part of our journey, we'll descend deeper into the hidden vaults, the sealed chambers, the hollow tombs that Petra still guards. Because if the gospel of the Bride of Truth is real, then the real secret is not what was carved on the walls, but what lies beneath them. Asterisk asterisk. The most powerful weapon of the church was never the sword. It was silence. Not every heresy was burned. Not every rival was crushed. Some were simply ignored, buried under centuries of strategic amnesia. And Petra may have been one of those silences. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Think about it. When the church feared a threat, it moved with violence. The Cathars burned, the Gnostics erased, the Templars executed. But Petra? There was no crusader mission, no papal investigation, no bishopric established. Why? Because to acknowledge Petra was to risk exposure. To dig there was to risk discovery. Far safer to let the desert swallow it whole. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Asterisk, asterisk, and Petra was silenced. In 1921, in the Vatican archives, a sealed letter was cracked open during an inventory. 2 Jesuit archivists examined it, and then, quietly, it was sealed again. No publication, no announcement, but one marginal note survived. A chilling line: let them bury their truth in sand. It shall be forgotten as dust is forgotten by the rain. Not destroyed, buried, not erased, silenced. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. So what did Rome fear? Not a relic, not a treasure chest of gold, but memory. A gospel that spoke not of hierarchy, but of presence. Not of Peter, but of Magdalene. A story carved in stone, impossible to burn, impossible to rewrite. If it ever emerged, it would not call for reform. It would call for rewriting everything. Asterisk, asterisk, and that was Rome's fear. Not heresy as rebellion, but heresy as memory. Asterisk, asterisk, even now you can feel it. Pilgrim diaries never mention Petra. Medieval maps leave it blank. Modern excavations stop just inches from answers. This is not coincidence. It is a pattern. A silence so deliberate, it becomes a scream. Rome didn't need to destroy Petra's gospel. The Templars buried it themselves. And the Church simply allowed silence to do the rest. But silence does not erase. It only hides. In Petra's tombs are frescoes covered 3 times. Inscriptions scratched out mid-stroke, doors that lead nowhere, chambers aligned with the stars, all pointing to one truth. Someone tried very hard to make us forget. In the next part of our journey, we'll follow the trail of the forgotten guardians themselves, the exiled Templars, the brotherhood in shadows, the men who traded their swords for silence. Because if Petra still remembers, perhaps, so do they. Asterisk, asterisk. History tells us the Templars were wiped out in 1307. Betrayed by kings, condemned by Rome, burned at the stake. But what if some of them never vanished? What if they slipped away, shedding their armor, abandoning their banners, and disappearing into the deserts of Petra, not as warriors, but as shadows? A brotherhood without name, without country, without end. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Medieval letters speak of a black brotherhood, operating beyond the authority of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem. They wore the cross, but not as Rome did. They whispered of a gospel not written in ink. Were they renegades? Or something stranger, a splinter of the Templars, carrying memory too dangerous for Europe? To their enemies, they were heretics. To themselves, perhaps, they were custodians. The last guardians of a truth carved in stone. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Local Bedouin tales tell of men dressed in white robes, longer and cleaner than any pilgrims, moving silently through Petra's canyon centuries after the Crusades. They traded no relics. They carried no weapons, only parchments, only silence. Some said they sang with no sound, fasted not for penance, but for remembrance, and wore texts like armor, hidden beneath their robes. Not knights, not monks, something in between. A brotherhood of silence. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Perhaps their mission was not to fight, but to protect. Not to build castles, but to preserve memory. They became custodians, guardians of Petra's forbidden gospel, ensuring it survived not through councils or altars, but through whispers in caves, carvings in stone, and shadows moving at night. Rome could not burn what it could not find. And Petra, with its hollow stones, became their fortress. Asterisk, asterisk. The Templars may have died in France, but their memory lived in Petra. Asterisk, asterisk. Archaeologists still find strange anomalies, Latin phrases scratched mid-sentence, frescoes of women erased 3 times, doors that lead nowhere. To most, they are accidents. To others, they are signatures, left by a brotherhood that wanted to be forgotten by history, but remembered by stone, symbols slightly altered, like distorted crosses or geometric roses. Speak of men who carried memory, but reshaped it just enough to hide it. They lived as if every carving was both a prayer and a code. So who were they, these shadows in white? Survivors? Heretics? Or guardians of a secret too sacred to die? In the next part of our journey, we'll step deeper into Petra's underworld, the tombs, the vaults, the sealed doors that even now refuse to open. Because what the Shadow Brotherhood guarded may still lie there, waiting not to be discovered, but to be remembered. Asterisk, asterisk, every ancient city has its ruins. Petra has its ghosts. On the surface, the treasury dazzles. The monastery looms. The royal tombs glow crimson at sunset. But beneath these monuments, something stirs. The ground itself hides a labyrinth. Sealed vaults, tombs within tombs, doorways that lead to nothing. Places where silence grows so thick, you can almost hear it breathe. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Archaeologists using radar have mapped cavities beneath Petra's most famous structures. Perfect rectangular chambers, aligned with solstices and stars, too precise to be natural. But these voids remain sealed, drilling permits vanish. Funding evaporates. Reports are filed away. The official verdict? No archaeological significance, but you cannot look at a perfect rectangle beneath an ancient temple and call it meaningless. Unless, of course, meaning is exactly what they want to bury. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. One explorer claimed he found stairs leading downward behind the Corinthian tomb. Rough, uneven, cut by human hands. He followed them into a chamber where strange markings spread across the ceiling. Half crosses, half stars like prayers carved in code. He fled, terrified, and days later, a flash flood collapsed the entrance. The chamber swallowed again by the desert. All that remains is his sketch, a rose within an inverted seal of Solomon. The same symbol whispered in Templar manuscripts. Coincidence? Or confirmation? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Petra is full of false facades. Ornate doorways that lead to bare rock. To tourists, they're decorative. To skeptics, unfinished work. But to those who listen, they breathe. Stand before one long enough, and you'll feel it. A faint current of air, seeping through cracks, whispering of hidden passageways behind. Locals call them the doors of silence, not sealed by nature, sealed by intent. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Inside some of these hidden tombs, frescoes have been layered 3 times. First, a woman crowned and robed, then plaster, then Islamic motifs. Finally, ash. 3 layers of silence. Not erosion. Not accident, but erasure. Deliberate, repeated. And yet, the woman's outline still bleeds through the stone. Her presence refuses to die. Petra's Bedouin still tells stories of vaults that exhale at night, chambers beneath the treasury that sigh with desert wind. Some say those vaults guard treasure. Others whisper they hold texts too sacred to read aloud. But one tale lingers like smoke, that the vaults contain no gold, no relic, but memory. A gospel so dangerous that it could only survive if it was buried alive. And the Templars? They were not conquerors here. They were undertakers, burying not bodies, but truths. So beneath Petra's surface lies a maze of sealed vaults and breathing tombs. Not empty, but silenced. Not forgotten, but hidden. The question is not what lies there. The question is who. Because among Petra's carvings and erased frescoes, one figure keeps returning. A woman, a teacher, a bride. And if her memory survived in these vaults, then the Church's greatest fear may not have been relics, but revelation. In the next part of our journey, we confront her directly, the forbidden figure at the heart of the gospel carved in stone. Asterisk asterisk, across Petra's hidden tombs, one figure refuses to vanish. Her outline carved in stone, erased in ash, layered in plaster, but never gone. A woman, not as a mother, not as a saint, but as a teacher, and to those who dared to whisper, she was called Magistra Veritatis, the mistress of truth. Asterisk asterisk, in the Gospels Rome approved, Magdalene is a witness, a woman on the margins. But in the text they buried, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Thomas, she argues theology with the apostles. She teaches men. She receives visions denied to Peter himself, a woman as custodian of revelation. A teacher of teachers. To Rome, that was unthinkable. But in Petra's silence, her memory was carved into stone. Asterisk asterisk, a gospel not of crucifixion, but of continuity, not of hierarchy, but of presence. A gospel where Magdalene stands at the center. Asterisk asterisk, repeated throughout Petra are strange words. Magistra Veritatis, Domina Sapientia, the bride of truth, Mary of wisdom. In frescoes, she is shown not kneeling before apostles, but raising them. In one carving, a man bows his head as she extends her arms. In another, she holds a child, not swaddled as divine, but walking beside her as equal. If this was her gospel, then Petra's walls hold a message Rome could never allow. That truth did not pass through Peter, but through her. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Some scholars notice Petra's monuments align not only with solstices, but with constellations, Virgo and Leo, the Virgin and the Lion. In esoteric Christian tradition, they represent Magdalene and the Lion of Judah. Coincidence? Or a celestial gospel encoded in stone? The Templars themselves built chapels guided by sacred geometry, spirals, ratios, alignments. What if Petra was their model? A house of form, a silent scripture written in angle and axis? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Unlike parchment, stone cannot be burned. Unlike ink, it cannot be erased. That is why this gospel survives not in words, but in walls, a rose within a star, a cross warped slightly wrong, a phrase half carved, never finished. All fragments of a memory that refuses to die. Perhaps the Templars did not come here to conquer, but to protect. Not to build castles, but to guard silence. And in Petra, they found the perfect vault, a city carved from desert, where a forbidden gospel could wait. Asterisk, asterisk, wait. Not to be read, but to be remembered. Asterisk, asterisk, Rome did not fear relics. Relics can be controlled. Rome feared memory. A memory where Magdalene is not sinner, not outcast, but vessel of revelation. If Petra truly preserves this gospel, then history itself bends. Christianity would not need reformation. It would need rewriting, and maybe. That is why silence was the only answer. So Petra may hold the Magdalene legacy, a gospel not in ink, but in stone. But if this memory survived here, then the Templars carried it too. And when the order fell, they did not confess to relics of gold or chalices of power, but to her. In the next part of our journey, we face the trial of fire, the fall of the Templars, the accusations of heresy, and the whispers that their true devotion was not to Rome, but to the Bride of Truth. October 13, 1307. Across France, before dawn, the king's men moved in silence. One by one, the Knights Templar were seized, dragged from their commanderies, shackled in iron, their wealth confiscated, their libraries seized, their leaders condemned. But what crime did they commit? Greed? Idolatry? Or something far more dangerous, devotion to a gospel Rome could never allow? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Under torture, Templars confessed to many things: kissing the back of idols, denying Christ, spitting on the cross. But the most unsettling accusations were not about demons, but about her. Some whispered they honored a mysterious woman, not the Virgin Mary, not a canonized saint, but Maria Sapientia, Mary of Wisdom, a name the inquisitors could not place, a devotion they could not understand. And so they called it heresy. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. To the church, the Templars were accused of worshiping the devil. But what if it wasn't the devil at all? What if, in their secrecy, the Templars venerated the same figure carved into Petra's walls? The mistress of truth, the bride of wisdom, Mary Magdalene. Not as sinner, not as penitent, but as the living continuation of revelation, the teacher erased from Scripture. Asterisk, asterisk. To Rome, this was intolerable. To honor her was to deny Peter. To protect her gospel was to undermine the very foundation of papal power. Asterisk, asterisk. In 1314, Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Templars, was led to the stake. The flames rose. His body burned. Some chronicles say he cursed the king and the pope. Others say he prayed. But in one obscure Cistercian note, another word appears, strange, out of place. Petra. Not in French, not in Latin, in Arabic, Albatra, a final whisper, naming the city of red stone where silence kept what Rome feared most. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The Templars were accused of worshipping idols, but none were ever found. They were accused of heresy, but no forbidden text survived. Why? Because the most dangerous thing they carried was not an idol, not gold, not relics. It was memory. A memory of a gospel centered on her. And Petra was the vault where that memory slept. The church didn't need to destroy it. They only needed to burn the men who remembered. But fire cannot consume memory carved in stone. And long after the flames died in Paris, long after the ashes of the Templars blew away, Petra still whispered. Its vault still breathed. Its carving still bled with fragments of a forbidden truth. In the next part of our journey, we descend again into Petra, to the doors that lead nowhere, the chambers erased 3 times, and the symbols the shadow brotherhood may have left behind. Because if the bride survived fire and silence, then she may still be waiting in stone. Asterisk, asterisk. The deeper you walk into Petra, the quieter it gets. The tourists vanish. The air grows colder. Even the wind seems to hesitate. And then you find them, the doors. Tall, ornate, perfectly carved. And sealed. Doors that lead nowhere. Asterisk, asterisk. They call them the doors of erasure. Asterisk, asterisk. The first layer is stone itself. A wall that hides a void. To the untrained eye, it's just sandstone. Beautiful, natural. But listen closely, and the rock breathes. Air seeps through tiny cracks, whispering from a space beyond. This is the first silence, the physical one. What's buried stays unseen, but the deeper silence is not in the stone. It's in what people chose not to remember. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The second layer is the paint. Frescoes upon frescoes. The woman with the scroll. The 12 flames. The teacher. Each layer covered, plastered, and painted over again. Islamic motifs on top of Christian images. Christian symbols over older Nabatean carvings. Faith upon faith, silence upon silence. Each empire burying the last, not to destroy it, but to keep its ghost quiet. This is the silence of control, rewriting history without erasing it, just suffocating it. Asterisk, asterisk. Every stroke of plaster whispers, we remember, but we must not say it. Asterisk, asterisk. The third layer is us. The human mind forgets what frightens it. The church learned that lesson well. You don't need to burn every gospel. You just have to make people stop asking questions. And that is the last and deepest silence, not of stone, not of paint, but of thought. Asterisk, asterisk, silence is not the absence of sound. It's the burial of memory. Asterisk, asterisk, Petra remains, red, scarred, magnificent. Its walls still bear the faint outlines of forbidden names. The Templars are gone. Their crosses eroded. Their fires long extinguished, but the wind still moves through Petra's canyons. Like a breath through a tomb dot, and if you listen closely, truly listen, you might hear it. A whisper, not of war, but of witness. A voice carved in stone, murmuring the same ancient plea, ad lamavi in tenebris. I cried out in the darkness. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Maybe that's what Petra was always meant to be, not a temple. Not a tomb, but a memory. A place where truth was hidden, not to deceive, but to survive. Because some truths are not meant to be shouted. Some must be whispered, carved in stone, layered in silence, waiting for those who still know how to listen. And maybe the Templars weren't guarding treasure at all. Maybe they were guarding a voice, her voice. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Petra stands as both grave and gospel. Its stones tell no lies. They simply wait. Wait for the day someone brave enough, foolish enough, or faithful enough to hear the echo that history tried to kill. Because in the end, truth does not die in fire. It sleeps in silence. And sometimes, the stones remember what people choose to forget. If this story moved you, if you believe some truths are worth listening to, even the ones carved in stone, then join me. Subscribe, share this journey, and keep the light alive. Because as long as we keep asking, the silence can never win.